On the guest line with us now, my good friend, the senator from the beautiful Gulf Coast of Mississippi, Joel Carter. How's it going, Senator?
Man, it's going great. I'm coming to you live from the Morningside Resort and Spa.
Morningside Resort and Spa. And where's that? Is that in your district?
I was being facetious. This is in Morningside. Legislative
I got you. I got you. That's right. Well, I was talking about that earlier. I didn't know if you drove up today or if you spent the night in advance of the session convening or the legislature convening today.
Well, we had conference calls and meetings this morning, so I keep an apartment up here year round. So I went and came up yesterday afternoon. Yeah,
so Senator Carter represents District 49. Tell us what all that covers, Senator. Your district.
My district, it's in Harrison County. I've got West Biloxi and the majority of Gulfport. So it's the heart of tourism in the state.
Yep, absolutely. So 1 o'clock today, gaveling in. Originally, that was called for to be at 4. And then the speaker, I believe, moved that up to 1. I assume the Senate's doing the same. Is that correct?
That's correct. We do go in at 1 today.
And I have read reports about and heard the speaker even on our air yesterday on with Gallo talking about how everybody is split up in order to maintain separation, physical separation, all about the Capitol. And I guess you guys are all getting your temperature checked. Is that true when you enter the Capitol?
So you walk in, they ask you a bunch of questions, they check your temperature, and then they hand you PPE, and then there's seating charts on the Senate side. They've got some of us up in the gallery and some of us spread out on the floor. So we're practicing social distancing and wearing protective to the PPE. It's quite a sight to see.
I've seen some photos of it. I saw Horn, Senator Horn. I couldn't even tell who he was. He had all that stuff on. So
it turns out it's not very easy to talk through the PPE mask.
And so I assume the speaker and the lieutenant governor as well have theirs on. Is that correct? They have their masks on, or they?
That's correct. Everybody. It looks like we're going to battle.
I don't mean to laugh because it is what it is today, but I don't know if you heard me in the last segment talking about this South Korea baseball season opening up, and they got the cardboard cutouts of fans in the stands with masks on, simulating a large contingent of fans coming to watch these guys play baseball. I mean, it's crazy. I'm ready to get this crap behind us, but let's jump into it. What do you expect today? What's the plan?
So we've talked about, immediate relief to small businesses. We're trying to find out how the agencies have been affected. I know that the lieutenant governor's reached out to see if there are any immediate needs. So Chairman Hobson, my finance chairman, Chairman Harkins, they're all working together to see what the immediate needs are, and making sure that, I know the governor's concern has been that there may be something that is immediately needed and the money's not appropriated. So we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, just for our listeners' benefit, that would be Senator Briggs Hobson, that's the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and Senator Josh Harkins from Rankin County. Briggs is from the Vicksburg, Warren County area, who heads the Finance Committee. So both friends of mine. But I guess, do you feel like that the governor says a bill in order has not been transmitted to his office for signing? The bill that passed last Friday, the 1.5-page bill that went through both the House and Senate, passed in the House unanimously, and I think 50-2 was the score in the Senate. He says he hasn't received a valid bill. On the other hand, we've got the Speaker of the House. I haven't heard Lieutenant Governor Hosemann weigh in on this, but the Speaker of the House says, well, yeah, we transmitted that last Friday. he's got 5 days to sign or, I guess, veto. And that would end at midnight tonight because Sunday is excluded in the count of the days. What do you think about that? What's the lieutenant governor saying about that?
Well, this is what I will say is that on the floor after the bill was passed, Chairman Hobson asked for immediate release, and immediate release was granted. No one objected to that procedure. So, and according to rules, in my opinion, it's a valid bill. I mean, we granted immediate release and we sent it over. Wouldn't require another day to lay over. If someone wanted to hold it on a motion, they could have objected to that procedure, then held it on a motion, and that didn't happen. So I would argue that the bill that he has is legitimate.
Okay, so the legislature's position is there was no objection to that procedure, therefore no need for the day to reconsider. And the governor says no, they have to have this reconsider process a day in between there. So, I mean, is this something we got to get the Supreme Court to get involved in, the Supreme Court of Mississippi to rule on this? Do you feel like we're headed that way?
No, I don't. I mean, I think at the end of the day, cooler heads are going to prevail out of this whole situation. It'll be interesting to see what happens today.
Yeah.
I know you watched the governor's press conference yesterday, and it looked like he wasn't as he looked like he was a lot more. He was accepting of the situation, and he calmed down. So I think today I'm interested to see what he says in his 2:30 today.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I did watch, and the day before, I think that was Tuesday, Could have been Monday, he was signaling veto. And
he was.
It's clearly
straight out saying it was coming. So
yeah, and so I agree. He seems to have softened his stance on that somewhat, and he's made it very clear he doesn't care who gets credit. We just got to get something done and get this money rolling. I assume since you voted for the bill, and I think a lot of folks are confused about the bill itself. We're talking about the one that passed in the special session where it convened last Friday about this time, as a matter of fact. So, and that bill basically says, as I read it, it's a page and a half. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It instructs the DFA not to escalate the budget of any agency for the fiscal year 2021, which would begin July 1 of this year. And it also allocates $100 million to the DFA that allows the governor to distribute in fiscal year, with some constraints, in fiscal year 2020, which ends here in a month and a half. That's what the bill essentially said. So it wasn't, as a lot of people think, where the legislature says, hey, we're neutering everything and we're neutering the power, I guess, of the governor, as much as it just says, look, DFA, let that money sit there until we sort. This is my interpretation, until we sort this out, and then I guess then come back as Philip said last week, today, which is what you guys are doing in Delbert. And then I guess you're going to work on appropriating that money. Is that your understanding? Yeah. Okay. So
I mean, the intent was just to transfer some money that the governor could immediately put his hands on, and then the other money to go into the budget contingency fund. I mean, we weren't trying to take any power away or do anything like that.
Yeah.
We're just setting the money aside until we could figure out how this money should be best appropriated.
So it should be clear, I believe, that the $1.25 billion has already been deposited, if you will, with the Department of Finance and Administration. Is that true?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. It's sitting there. Yeah, it's got the money now. Senator, I got a break right now. Can you hang with us and come back for another segment?
Absolutely.
And on the guest line with us, continuing our discussion with Senator Joel Carter, District 49, Harrison County, Mississippi. And we're just talking about the legislature. It's scheduled to convene here in about 40 minutes, actually. And the business will be to discuss the appropriation of the $1.25 billion coronavirus relief fund. already in place and deposited and in the custody of the Department of Finance and Administration, as Senator Carter advises. And so, do you think you guys are going to be meeting us soon for a while today? I heard Philip Gunn yesterday on Gallo say, "Look, if we got to meet Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday to get this hammered out and have a plan in place to get this money appropriated, we're willing to do so." Do you feel like that? If you guys had some, you said to have some conference calls. You guys have had obviously some discussions amongst yourselves, I assume, on how you think this money ought to be spent and where to target it. And not sure if you've been listening to us this morning. Your friend and mine, Senator Chad McMahon from Guntown, he had some thoughts that you're roomie, okay? So
that's my roomie.
I didn't know that. Glad to know that. So he had some thoughts, and he published, I believe, his ideas, 7 different points that Y'all Politics, our friend Alan Lang, picked up yesterday. Are you aligned with Senator McMahon and his concept here, Senator Carter, or are you thinking something different or slight adjustments? Or tell us where you think the money ought to be spent.
Well, number one, that money is earmarked by the federal government, so it's not money that we can just go plug holes in the budget or just spend on anything. It's money that can only be appropriated on COVID-related expenses. So the lieutenant governor, staff, and I'm sure Speaker Gunn's staff, they've been reaching out to various state agencies, hospitals, MEMA, and trying to find out what their direct needs are and kind of project what this may look like in the fall. I mean, it's no surprise this virus is not going away anytime soon. So we want to make sure that all Mississippians are taken care of. That's our number one primary goal. And anyone that suffers as it relates to this virus, we want to try and provide some type of relief for them.
Yeah, and you're so right, and it's good information for our listeners because the guidance from the Department of Treasury, the U.S. Department of Treasury, it's 4 pages, and it very clearly states the requirements for these expenditures are that they are incurred due to, in quotes, the public health emergency, meaning that these expenditures must be used for actions taken to respond to the public health emergency. So it doesn't provide just carte blanche power and latitude to whomever the appropriating body is here to just spend money however you see fit, as you pointed out. So I know there are a lot of concerns you've seen people have that, oh my gosh, if it ends up with either the legislature or the governor, there's this high probability of a lot of back scratching and cronyism and use on crazy stuff. But the guidance is, not only is it pretty definitive, but as you know, and the governor's talked about this, if it is used for an expenditure that does not meet the guidance, we get audited. We got to pay it back.
Yeah, there'll be a massive clawback. So, and that's why the legislature's going in today. We didn't want to waste any time. We wanted to jump and get on this and make sure that money starts going out where it's needed. And those are the conversations that we're going to have over the next couple of days. And to be honest with you, I mean, we've been working from home. We've been on the phone. We've been working outside of the Capitol. So we haven't just been sitting at home with our feet in the air. You know, we're taking this seriously.
So do you feel like there will be a fair amount or a great deal of alignment within the houses, the respective houses on this? Or do you anticipate this being a protracted war over who gets what money and how much and so forth? Because, again, this guidance is fairly definitive.
Yeah, I don't see the whole concept of the legislature fighting over this money with those guidelines in place. It's not, like I said, we can't plug budget holes. I mean, we can't even send relief funds to the cities for taxes that they're missing. So I mean, there's a limited debate. I mean, but the general consensus of the legislature is that we need to be the ones that appropriate these funds, and that's been the big topic of discussion over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and exactly, and again, when you look through here, and we really do need to be clear about that. This is not money designed to make up for revenue shortfalls. It is specifically designed to cover incremental expenses, specifically associated with dealing with the emergency. It does appear that a bill is brewing up in Washington to, in fact, help states and cities and public entities deal with budgetary revenue shortfalls. Separate deal. This not only is for expenses and is designated as such in the guidance, but for expenses incurred by December 30th of this year. So it's not to cover some long-term expense hole. You can't go, for example, cover the unfunded liability portion of PERS in Mississippi with this money. Neither branch can allocate it for that. Well, they can, but they're going to have to pay it back.
Right.
And Tate, I think, was very succinct when he said, we're not talking about $50,000 here clawback. We're talking about you make a mistake, $100 million clawback potentially, because you're not probably looking at a lot of different programs coming out of this, and whatever they are, they're going to be big money.
That's very, very correct.
So I think it's a matter of, for us as citizens, I'd like to think that we can trust both branches. I don't like this coming down to a situation where we say, well, I trust the governor more than the legislature. We elect both of these public officials to represent us. We got to trust both. I think it comes down to a function of expediency. The governor argues, well, his office can do it quicker. Speaker of the House Gunn on our air says we're prepared to stay as long as we need, and we think we can get this done quick.
Well, you also have to remember, we're sending this money to the executive branch of government. So the governor's going to have a say-so on how this money's spent.
Good
so
point.
There's a misconception out there that this was a power grab. No, we're following the Constitution. It clearly states when a check is made out to the state of Mississippi, the legislature appropriates those funds. We send it to the executive branch for them to use it how we appropriate it. The governor oversees that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Joel. Go ahead. Excuse me.
No, he appoints all those executive directors of those various agencies. So he has a very, very big say-so on how all that money's spent.
And we should also point out, for the benefit of our listeners, that some $1 billion of federal aid has already been distributed to a number of agencies within the state of Mississippi, most of which report directly to the executive branch.
Yes, there's been multiple buckets that have come through. He's sitting on $34 million plus the $100 that we appropriated a week ago. So he's got $134 million over there right now.
Right.
And that's not the money that went straight to MEMA or any of the other agencies.
Yeah, because the CARES Act was really the third bill, if you will, of the various relief bills that passed through the Congress in Washington. And money has been allocated to, for example, the Department of Health, to MEMA, to K-12, to higher ed, to Department of Employment Security, UMC. There are a number of entities that have received money. Speaker of the House Gunn maintains that he's been in touch with the agency heads on a continuous basis, and they tell him they don't have any, emergency urgent needs. That's what he says when he's making his case. The governor, I think, is focused more on how do we get relief to these businesses that the government forced closed, the barbershops, the salons, and he feels like his office is better geared for that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that today when we go in at 1.
Yeah. So anyhow, a lot to discuss. I wish you guys luck. Please just get this done, however it works out, as quickly as possible. I know you're aware Mississippians are hurting and they're relying on it. And man, let's put all the politics aside, which I believe our branches can do.
I can't agree with you more, and I want to iterate. that the governor is doing a great job. I couldn't be more
Yes.
prouder of him.
Indeed.
And I think
Indeed.
everyone should be proud of their legislature as well.
Senator Joel Carter, District 49, thanks so much for joining us today. Senator, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. You take care. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you too, sir.